The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. They have no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
times? They say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback. They don't.
So what really happened to Shedeur Sanders is that the league viewed him as a backup.
I actually texted Shedeur because I know him very well. And I said, dude, like whatever happens, wherever you go, like that's your first day. Day 2 matters more than the draft. I was 199.
Yeah.
So who could speak on it better than me? Like what that really means. Use it as motivation. You're going to get your chances. Go take advantage of it.
We've seen elite talent drafted later in the first round than we expected. Yet we've never seen a slide quite as dramatic as Shedeur Sanders in 2025. While his selection to the Browns may have been a relief for the Sanders family, it further complicates an already murky quarterback situation in Cleveland, a city where signal callers' dreams go to die. Given the spectacle around Shedeur, not just throughout the draft process, but his entire career thus far, it's difficult to see a positive trajectory for his career in Cleveland. And in today's video, we're going to go over exactly why the Shedeur Sanders experiment in Cleveland is doomed to fail. Now, this kind of public humiliation is rare for Shedeur, who's used to being the best player everywhere he went. He was a 4-star recruit out of Trinity High School. He won 3 state championships as well as a TCAL national championship in his senior year. Playing quarterback was an interesting way to kind of distinguish himself from his father, Dion, who made the move into coaching. He served as Shedeur's offensive coordinator before accepting the head coaching job at Jaxson State and HBCU in Mississippi. Shedeur's fantastic play in high school saw many of offers flood in, with the opportunity to play for blue bloods like Alabama and even Baylor. But the quarterback made the understandable decision to go and play for his father at Jaxson State University, becoming the highest ranked recruit in the school's history. The father-son duo was routinely making national headlines, drawing attention to the Tigers football program, the likes of which it had never seen before. Alongside his brother Shiloh, Shedeur led Jaxson State to an 11-2 record in the school's first conference championship in 14 years as a freshman. He was joined by 5-star recruit Travis Hunter, and the Sanders dynasty continued into 2022 with another conference championship and a staggering 3,752 yards through the air for 40 scores. Dion continued to make history with the eyes and revenue he brought to HBCUs, helped considerably by his son's on-field accomplishments, turning the program around in Mississippi. When it came time for his father to take the next step to Colorado, both Sanders boys and Hunter followed him to Boulder. Despite the hot start, year 1 did see the Buffaloes finish 4-8, while Shedeur impressed in his first season in a Power 5 conference. A touchdown to interception ratio of 27-3 is astonishing, while a near 70% completion rate showed that Shedeur Sanders more than belonged at this level. He fully confirmed this in 2024, leading the entire nation with a 70% completion rate, as well as his 4,134 yards through the air for 37 touchdowns led the conference. He won Big 12 Player of the Year in the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, and he helped complete a turnaround of Colorado's program, finishing the year at 9-4, securing his legacy as one of the Buffalo's best quarterbacks of all time. And truthfully, it was all made better too because, well, he was doing it with his family. Shiloh and of course Dion were there every step of the way, while his top receiver Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. And that's not to take away from Shedeur's game at all. He had 4 receivers with over 400 yards on the season. The Buffalo's number 2 knew how to spread the ball around. And yes, while he didn't have his father's game-breaking athleticism, Shedeur Sanders made up for it with an impressive toughness and elite reading of the game for a college quarterback. At the conclusion of the 2024 season, he was widely graded as one of the top 2 quarterback prospects in a relatively weak draft class at the position. And I mean, with the incredible track record he had of relying on his dad for all things career-orientated, why would Shedeur go any other direction when it came to draft prep? And well, that decision would kind of prove to be his undoing. Like, as most people know, I think, and just even if you're just kind of going into the NFL, it's not advisable to have your father or just kind of any family member in general be your agent. Not only that too, but when it's one that's as polarizing as Deion Sanders, well, it doesn't help that much either. Like, I mean, Deion Sanders literally even said that his son and even Travis Hunter weren't going to play for certain franchises that he would actually step in. And now, yes, while he's not certainly the first man to do this, as we saw Arch Manning do it back in 2004, the fact that Deion made this declaration over a year before his son even declared for the draft was not a good look. He would eventually walk back on his comments, but at that point, the damage had pretty much already been done. And I mean, in order to kind of threaten that kind of power play too, you already have to have just some pretty serious leverage in the situation, which, well, Shedeur Sanders definitely didn't have. And yes, Shedeur did inherit his father's supreme confidence, but he didn't inherit the generational talent to fully back it up. Then you have to watch his signature watch celebration, flexing his wealth, to go along with debates around his mentality when he openly blamed his offensive line.
I mean, how many times did Raul get touched? You said what? How many times did Raul get touched? There was able, like, of course, whenever you're able to run the ball consistently and whenever you're able to, then that opens up the pass, you know? But it's just like you got to understand, like, what your team good at.
And sportsmanship following a win at Colorado State as well. All of a sudden then, Shedeur's character was under more scrutiny than ever. And as crazy as it sounds too, many people were kind of questioning that maybe he was just the classic case of a kid with a rich dad who was handed tons of opportunities in life. After all, he was heavily recruited out of high school, got plenty of work in with private coaches, and even enjoyed one-on-one sessions with Tom Brady. And now, yes, while that is kind of tough to hold against the kid, the media's conflicting just perception of Shedeur kind of reached an all-time high when we were in the combine just a month ago. The other top quarterback prospect, Cam Ward, was his polar opposite in terms of backstory and demeanor. I mean, despite the two getting along seemingly well,
we not getting no water, we just had the first drill. Oh, that's how you feel? We get water, we ain't even done with the first drill.
Let's go.
That's how it is in Colorado, though.
Inside the numbers, top
That's what it's like for a 9-win man.
Ward didn't come with the baggage that Sanders had, unbridled confidence that borderline was just arrogant, and a public meddling parent. Added to the fact too that Sanders didn't throw out the combine, instead taking various meetings and interviews with potential landing spots. Not out of the ordinary for elite prospects, but on this particular day, it would prove costly. And well, that's because Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss, one of the fastest rising quarterbacks present that day, did throw. And he threw very well.
Yes, I think he's going to open up some eyes. Interesting. It's just a jump start of opening up eyes to, I think, you know, a guy that's probably going to rise in this draft process.
Wow, interesting, because I know there's a lot of debate. Are there going to be 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round? I know Dart's name's been in there. I know Milroe, if you believe in the running and think he can bring along the throwing.
Right.
Are you leaning towards, I mean, I know this is early.
I know.
But like what
As
you
I've
saw,
seen, Jaxson Dart's going to be the 3rd guy off the board. Maybe he has a chance to sneak and be the 2nd guy off the board.
Sanders was pretty adamant too that his tape spoke for itself, but when it was time for him to do some actual talking, it didn't go particularly well. And I mean, for starters too, his just address to just everybody in Indianapolis too has been clipped to no end. Shedeur was his usual confident self, a bit too much for some viewers though. He gloated about turning around the program in Jackson and Boulder, constantly invoking his dad and family name, appearing to deflect any criticisms by assuring the press that he was entirely aware of the weaknesses he had. To himself, he certainly appeared infallible. To many present that day, though, he was raising countless red flags. And well, I mean, truthfully, there was good and there was bad from this press conference. The kid was very self-assured, but in private meetings, well, the same couldn't be said. Like, I mean, according to reports, they were absolutely just catastrophic. He only interviewed with 7 teams despite not being a bona fide top 10 talent in the draft. In those interviews, Shedeur appeared more concerned with the teams impressing him and not the other way around. I mean, Todd McShay even reported that there were, and I'm going to quote this too, 2 teams drafting in the top 10 with quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh, just felt like we didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared at all about what we thought of him. It's understood too that his meeting with the New York Giants went particularly poorly as well. Fans got a flavor for the type of grilling that Brian Dable lays on quarterback prospects too in last year's Hard Knocks series. When this was done to Shedeur, who hadn't memorized the play package that was sent to him prior, the quarterback didn't respond well to the criticism at all. And after those meetings too, a lot of teams took Shedeur just kind of off of their draft board, and well, the other quarterbacks, their stock was rising while Shedeur's was falling. And of course, whether all these just kind of things that were happening are true or not, Shedeur was basically just kind of becoming perceived as being very out of touch and just kind of entitled during the entire just combine process. Like, as the evaluation process evolved, Shedeur continued to fall. He was no longer a lock for the first round, with Jaxson Dart surpassing him as quarterback 2 in some mock drafts, something that had seemed impossible just a few months prior. I mean, truthfully, well, we kind of all know that there isn't a good track record for just entitled quarterbacks that are taken in the first round. I mean, if we need to, just go back, I think, to 2018 when Josh Rosen was taken, and it didn't turn out well at all. Not only that too, but having Dion as his agent made things even worse for him, as teams had little faith that anyone in Shedeur's inner circle was being realistic with him about his plummeting draft stock. Prime cast an enormous shadow, one of which Shedeur hadn't shown much interest in distinguishing himself from throughout the entire evaluation process. And as we fast forward to draft night, there was little surprise when Cam Ward was first off the board, but April 24th became a waiting game for the Sanders family, who had a completely decked out draft setup with Shedeur's trademark legendary plastered all over. And below the surface, well, it was becoming clearer and clearer that he wasn't grasping at his biggest problem. With quarterback-needy teams in the top 10 turning their attention to other holes in the roster, when the Pittsburgh Steelers came on around at pick 21, the broadcast tensely cut to the Sanders residence. But no pick was made. 4 picks later, the Giants traded back into the first round. It was clear they were going to pick a quarterback, but to the surprise of many watching, New York took Jaxson Dart. It was perceived as a bit of a reach, but Sanders falling out of the first round hadn't been considered out of the realm of possibility since the combine. On day 2 though, things went from disappointing to absolutely absurd. New Orleans, a destination that Sanders was repeatedly mocked to, had seemed to confirm his new home. I mean, he even received a call from who he thought was the New Orleans GM Mickey Loomis. As it turned out though, it was the Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbricht's son, Jax, in a moment that was cruelly only made clear as day 2 dragged on. In reality, the Saints picked Tyler Shuck in the second round, who will be 26 years old this fall. 52 picks later,
with the 92nd pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks have selected my nephew, quarterback, Alabama, Jalen Milroe.
And I mean, Milroe was even half the passer that Shedeur was in 2024. Then,
with the 94th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, Oregon.
So day 2 came to a close with more questions than answers in the Sanders household. On the surface, Shedeur appeared calm, perhaps the upside of that unshakable confidence. Shiloh Sanders, on the other hand, though, seemed to be the only one to find any direction in the chaos, dropping Dion as his agent. Finally then, with the 144th pick, Shedeur Sanders was selected by the Cleveland Browns. While it put the most captivating draft day narrative to rest, it opened an entirely new can of worms as far as Shedeur's future in the NFL. Not only was he the second quarterback selected by Cleveland in this draft, but also by default, their 5th quarterback on the depth chart. The strategy here was just truthfully puzzling. His slide had completely upended many of his prospects for a starting job, meaning that for once, he has a lot to prove, which is most likely going to be a good thing for him. If Browns fans do get their wish and Deshaun Watson never takes another snap in Cleveland, then Shedeur will have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel to overtake for the starting role. Truthfully, it's really going to be a toss-up between the 2 rookies at this moment, but Shedeur arguably does have a higher ceiling. The same can also be said for the fairly unremarkable Kenny Pickett, meaning that Sanders' main priority is proving that he can handle the pressure of competently leading an NFL offense as good, if not better, than the veteran Joe Flacco. And yes, I'm sure while just Shedeur Sanders does have that confidence that's going to show and just say that, yes, I can do that, just playing in the NFL is a completely different ballgame, and we could totally see the opposite thing. Like, I mean, assuming he sees the field and has some time to adjust, Shedeur will have some fantastic weapons at his disposal. Jerry Jeudy finally had his breakthrough in Cleveland with over 1,200 yards to his name, earning him a Pro Bowl nod, as well as Cedric Tillman on the up and up, and David Njoku is always an asset when healthy. The front office sought to fill in the holes left by Elijah Moore and Nick Chubb this offseason, drafting the exciting Judkins out of Ohio State and Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. While they may need reinforcements at wide receiver, the offense is certainly capable of improving on last year's output if Sanders can offer them consistent quarterback play whenever he does enter the fold. Add to that a ferocious defense that will get the ball back into his hands, and the rookie will have plenty of opportunities to let his game speak for itself. And yes, while all of the off-field drama and character-based smears have taken center stage, Shedeur's heartfelt reaction to getting drafted proves that the magnitude of this opportunity isn't lost on him. He's already planting his roots in the community, and falling to the 5th round should be plenty of fuel for him to reach his maximum potential. If Shedeur is actually willing to confront the shortcomings in his play, unlike what he showed in the pre-draft process, then there's no reason he won't rise through the ranks and seize the starting spot. His mental side of the game is already extremely developed, although his limited athleticism will cap his ceiling. I think that in the right system, Shedeur Sanders has all of the tools to become an elite passer thanks to his processing, accuracy, and consistency in somewhat of a Geno Smith-like mold. But all of that does depend on how the Browns handle their quarterback drama. If Shedeur can persist through the scrutiny around his draft position, the Browns may have found their quarterback after all, ending the eternal search. Knowing Cleveland though, even a self-professed changer of cultures like Shedeur may even have a tough time steering them to success.